The dining room smelled like turkey and too much rosemary. Plates clinked too loud. Someone's kid was kicking the table leg under the white tablecloth. Everyone was smiling the way people smile when they're pretending the food is the only thing that matters. Mom stood up first, wine glass in her perfectly manicured hand. "To my beautiful daughters," she said, voice already thick with that proud mom performance she saves for holidays. Both of them married now. Both of them finally settled. She turned to Claire, who sat straight-backed and glowing in a cream sweater that probably cost more than my car payment. "Claire and Mark, your wedding was straight out of a magazine. I still cry when I look at those photos. The flowers, the string quartet, that dress. Oh my Lord, that dress. You looked like royalty. I'm so proud I could burst." Claire laughed that soft, practiced laugh and squeezed Mark's hand. He grinned like he'd won something. Everyone raised their glasses. "To Claire and Mark." I lifted mine too, because what else was I supposed to do? Mom wasn't finished. "And the reception," she went on, eyes shining. 300 people and not one complaint. The food, the cake, the fireworks at the end. I still get stopped at the grocery store by people telling me it was the most beautiful wedding they've ever been to. Aunt Linda nodded hard. Perfection. Absolute perfection. I felt the smile freeze on my face. Mom finally glanced my way, like she just remembered I was sitting here. Evelyn's was sweet too, of course. Very them. Very them. That was the whole description. My name is Evelyn, and trust me, nothing about my life used to feel this cruel. I stared at the half-eaten slice of pumpkin pie on my plate and tried to swallow the lump that had nothing to do with food. Claire reached over and patted my arm like I was a charity case. "It was intimate," she said, smiling too wide. "That's what matters, right, Evie?" Intimate. Another word for cheap. Dad cleared his throat, uncomfortable the way he always gets when feelings show up uninvited. "Both my girls are happy. That's enough for me." But it wasn't enough for Mom. Never was. She kept going, because of course she did. I just think there's something so special when a girl gets the day she deserves. Claire worked so hard planning every detail. She earned it. Worked so hard. I felt my fork bend slightly in my grip. Across the table, my husband Ryan caught my eye. He gave me the tiniest shake of his head. "Don't. Not here. Not now." I looked away. Mom finally sat down, satisfied, like she'd just handed out report cards, and Claire got straight A's while I got the participation sticker. Conversation moved on. Football, somebody's new kitchen renovation, Claire's honeymoon in Bora Bora. I tuned it all out and stared at the gravy boat nobody was using. Because the truth, the real truth, was sitting on my chest like a cinder block, and nobody in this room wanted to hear it. Not yet. Ryan's foot nudged mine under the table. I didn't nudge back. Claire leaned over again, voice low and syrupy. "You okay, Evie? You look pale." I forced the corners of my mouth up. "Too much turkey." She laughed like I'd made a joke. Mom was already showing Aunt Linda new photos on her phone. Claire coming down the aisle, Claire cutting the cake, Claire tossing the bouquet like a Disney princess. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, leaned over the sink and stared at the woman in the mirror who used to believe love was enough. My eyes were already red. I turned the faucet on cold and let it run. Downstairs, I could still hear Mom's voice floating up, telling the story about how Claire's planner cried at the end because it was just that beautiful. I pressed a towel to my face so nobody would hear if I started crying. Because 2 years ago, when Ryan and I got married, Mom didn't cry happy tears. She cried because she was embarrassed. And nobody in that dining room had ever once asked why our wedding was intimate. They all assumed it was because we couldn't afford better. They never asked what really happened. They never asked who paid for Claire's fireworks while I got married in a courthouse parking lot with a $40 dress from Target. I dried my face, took a shaky breath, and walked back downstairs. The pie was being served now, whipped cream and forced laughter. Mom looked up when I sat down. "There she is. We saved you the biggest piece." I smiled the smile I'd perfected over the last 2 years. "Thanks, Mom." Ryan's hand found my knee under the table. I let him hold it, but I didn't squeeze back, because tonight, this Thanksgiving, I was done protecting everyone else's feelings. Tonight, they were going to hear the truth. even if it burned the whole table down. Dessert was over. The men had disappeared to watch football. The women were in the kitchen, pretending to clean, while really drinking the good wine straight from the bottle. I stood at the sink, rinsing the same plate for the third time. Claire breezed in with an armful of coffee cups. Mom says we're doing family photos in 10 minutes. The Christmas card ones. Of course we were. Mom followed behind her, already holding the tripod. Evelyn, honey, maybe put on some lipstick. You look a little tired. Translation. You look like someone who's dying inside. I dried my hands. Sure. Claire set the cups down and turned to me with that fake concerned face she's mastered since we were kids. Seriously, Evie, are you okay? You've been quiet all night. Mom didn't even look up from adjusting the camera. She's fine. Some people just don't love being the center of attention like you do. Claire Bear. Still. I felt something snap. Not loud, just a little crack inside my ribcage. Ryan appeared in the doorway. I'm going to run home and grab my good jacket for the photos. He lived 20 minutes away. He was giving me an out if I needed to leave. I shook my head slightly. Not yet. Mom waved him off. We'll be done by then. The kitchen emptied out. Just me and the humming fridge and the leftover smell of sage. I opened the drawer where Mom keeps the good linen napkins, the ones she only uses when company matters. My fingers brushed the corner of something hard. A photo booth strip from Claire's wedding. 4 pictures. Claire and Mark kissing. Claire and Mom crying happy tears. Claire throwing her head back laughing, both of them holding the best day ever sign. I stared at it until the edges blurred. Then I heard Mom's voice from the hallway. Evelyn, we're starting. I slipped the strip into my pocket and walked out. The living room had been rearranged. White backdrop. Professional lighting Mom rented because Claire deserves the best photos. Claire was already posed on the couch, legs crossed perfectly, Mark's arm around her like they were shooting a catalog. Mom adjusted Claire's hair. Perfect. You're glowing. Dad sat in the big chair, looking uncomfortable in his sweater vest. I took my place standing behind the couch, where the less important people go in family photos. Mom frowned. Evelyn, smile with your teeth. You look severe. Severe. I smiled with teeth. The shutter clicked. Again. Claire tilted her head. One with just the sisters? Mom clapped. Yes, my beautiful girls. Claire grabbed my hand and pulled me down next to her. Her arm went around my waist, like we were still 10 and 12 and best friends. Mom beamed. Say, family forever. The camera flashed. I waited until Mom lowered it to check the screen. Then I said it. Quiet, calm. You know what I'm thankful for this year? Everyone looked at me. That I learned who my real family is. Silence. Claire's arm dropped from my waist. Mom laughed nervously. What's that supposed to mean? I reached into my pocket and pulled out the photo strip. Held it up. This. I'm thankful I still have proof of the day you cared whether I was happy or not. Mom's face went white. Claire snatched it from my hand. Where did you get that? Doesn't matter. Dad sat up straighter. Evelyn? No. I cut him off. My voice didn't even shake. 2 years ago, when Ryan and I got married, you told everyone I eloped because I was too proud to let you help. You let them think we were broke. You let them think it was my choice. Mom opened her mouth. Closed it. I kept going. You want to know why our wedding was intimate, Mom? Because every dime you had went to Claire's. Because when I asked if you could help, even just a little, you cried and said you were tapped out after the venue deposit for Claire's dream wedding. Then 2 weeks later, you paid for her fireworks. $20,000. For fireworks. Claire's mouth fell open. Mark looked at the floor. I turned to my sister. You knew. You knew I was drowning trying to pay for Ryan's mom's cancer treatments. You knew we postponed the wedding twice because we couldn't afford the license fee. And you still let Mom tell everyone I was difficult. Mom finally found her voice. That's not fair. Not fair. I laughed, and it sounded ugly. You want to talk about fair? I got married in the courthouse parking lot because it was free after 5 p.m. My dress was from Target. Ryan's brother officiated on his phone because we couldn't pay a real one. And when I called you crying the night before, begging you to please just be there, you said you had to stay home and finish Claire's seating chart. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking. I looked at Claire. You sent me a text that day. So excited for your big day. With like 20 heart emojis. You didn't even come. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. Evie, You didn't what? No? You knew everything. You just didn't care. Dad stood up slowly. Evelyn, this is Thanksgiving. Yeah, Dad, it is. And I'm finally saying thank you. Thank you for teaching me blood doesn't mean loyalty. Thank you for showing me exactly where I stand. I looked at Mom. I needed you, once, and you chose her, again, like always. Mom's hand went to her throat. I didn't choose. You did. Every day you chose. I took one step toward the door. Ryan was standing there. jacket in his hand, eyes steady. I looked back at the family that never really felt like mine. Enjoy the photos. Then I walked out. I made it to the car before the first sob hit. Ryan didn't say anything, just opened the passenger door and let me fall apart. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. The kind of crying where your whole body shakes and snot runs and you don't care who sees. He held me until I was empty. When I could finally speak, my voice was shredded. I told them, I know. They hate me now. They hated the truth, not you. I laughed, wet and broken. Same thing. He started the car, backed out slow. Mom was standing on the porch watching, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. I didn't wave. We drove in silence for a long time, then my phone started blowing up. Claire. Evie, please come back. Claire, I'm so sorry, Claire. I didn't know it was that bad. I swear, Mom, you humiliated me in front of everyone, Mom. How could you do this to your sister on Thanksgiving, Aunt Linda? Your mother is crying hysterically. Call her. I turned it off. Ryan reached over and took my hand. We went home, to the little apartment we still couldn't really afford, and I sat on the couch and stared at nothing until the sun went down. At some point, I took a shower, stood under the water until it went cold. When I came out, Ryan had ordered pizza and opened the good wine, the bottle we'd been saving for something worth celebrating. He handed me a glass. To the truth, he said quietly. I clinked my glass against his and drank half in one swallow. Then I started crying again, because the truth didn't feel like freedom yet. It felt like I'd just amputated my own family. The next week was hell. Mom left voicemails that went from tears to rage to bargaining. Claire showed up at my work with coffee and red eyes and apologies that all sounded like, but you didn't have to say it like that. I stopped answering the door. I stopped answering everyone. I took 3 days off work and slept 14 hours at a time. Woke up gasping from dreams where I was screaming and no sound came out. Ryan brought me soup I didn't eat, held me when the panic attacks hit, the ones where my chest felt crushed and I couldn't stop shaking. On the 8th day, I found myself sitting on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., knees to chest, staring at the positive pregnancy test I'd taken on impulse. 2 pink lines. I sat there until dawn, didn't cry, just felt the weight settle deeper. Another secret. Another thing I'd have to do alone. I hid the test in my sock drawer and didn't tell Ryan yet. Couldn't. Not when everything else was already broken. Thanksgiving had cracked me open and everything inside was spilling out. Years of swallowed words, of smiling when I was bleeding, of pretending I didn't keep score. I stopped pretending. But God, it hurt. 4 months later, I was 5 months pregnant and finally starting to show under big sweaters. I hadn't spoken to Mom or Claire since Thanksgiving. They'd stopped calling after the first month. Ryan and I were okay, better than okay sometimes. We talked about the baby in quiet voices at night, hands on the little bump, planning a future that didn't include my family. Then the invitation came. Heavy cream cardstock, gold foil, Claire's baby shower, of course. Inside, a handwritten note from Mom. Evelyn, we miss you so much. Please come. Family is everything. Let's put this behind us. Love always, Mom. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Ryan found me on the kitchen floor holding the invitation like it was radioactive. He read it, looked at me. You don't have to go. I know. But I was tired of hiding, tired of letting them write the story. So I went. Wore a black dress that hugged the bump I wasn't hiding anymore. Walked into the country club like I belonged there. The room went quiet when I stepped in. White balloons, pink roses, a throne-like chair for Claire. She was already huge, 7 months along with twins. Mom spotted me first. Her face crumpled. She walked straight over and pulled me into a hug like nothing had happened. Oh, honey, you came. I let her hug me, then stepped back. Claire waddled over, eyes wide. Evie, you're pregnant. Yeah. The room was watching. Mom's smile wavered. When were you going to tell us? I looked her dead in the eye. When you started acting like family again. Someone gasped. Claire reached for my hand. I let her take it. Mom's chin lifted. The old defense mechanism. Evelyn, this is Claire's day. No, I said calmly. This is the day I stop letting you choose who matters. I turned to the room. 30 women in pastel dresses holding mimosas. Some of you were at Claire's wedding. A lot of you told my mom how perfect it was. Awkward laughter. You probably heard I eloped because I'm independent. I used air quotes. Or cheap, or difficult. I pulled the photo strip from Thanksgiving out of my purse, the one I'd kept, held it up. This is what my mom shows when she talks about her daughter's weddings. Then I pulled out my phone, showed the screen. A blurry photo Ryan took in the courthouse parking lot. Me in the Target dress, him in the only suit he owned. His brother holding up his phone to read the vows he'd Googled. That's mine. Silence. I looked at Mom. You had the money for fireworks. You didn't have bus fare to come hold my hand when I was terrified my husband's mom was dying and we couldn't even afford rings. Mom's eyes filled. Claire was crying silently. I wasn't finished. I'm having a baby in 4 months. Alone, if I have to be. Because I learned the hard way that love isn't just blood. It's showing up. It's choosing someone when it's hard. I looked at Claire. You're my sister. I love you. But I'm done being the footnote in your story. Then I turned to Mom. I forgive you. Because I have to. For this baby. But forgiveness isn't amnesia. I'm not coming back to the way things were. I placed the courthouse photo on the gift table, right on top of the mountain of pink presents. That's my wedding gift to the next generation. The truth. I walked out, didn't look back. That night, Claire showed up at my door. Alone. Cried in my hallway for an hour. Told me Mom had been sleeping in the guest room since Thanksgiving, crying herself sick. Told me she'd paid for half our baby's crib without asking. Told me she was sorry, really sorry, and that she'd spend the rest of her life making it right if I let her. I let her in. We sat on the couch and ate ice cream straight from the carton and cried until we laughed about how huge we both were. Mom came the next week. Didn't say much at first, just held my hand while I had a routine ultrasound. Cried when she heard the heartbeat. Afterward, in the parking lot, she finally spoke. I was wrong about everything. I thought love looked like big parties and perfect pictures. I didn't know it looked like courthouse parking lots and Target dresses. I didn't know how to see you. I let her hug me. Didn't hug back yet, but I didn't pull away. Healing wasn't a light switch. It was a long, slow road, but I was walking it, on my terms, with the people who chose to walk with me. The baby kicked the day I hung the courthouse photo in the nursery, right next to the new one of Claire and me. Bellies touching, laughing in front of the Christmas tree. 2 weddings, 2 sisters, 1 family, scarred, messy, and finally learning what love actually costs. I rubbed my belly and whispered to the little life inside, your story starts with the truth, baby, and that's the most beautiful thing I can give you. What would you do if this happened to you? Tell me in the comments. Thank you for watching Revenge Cut. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of betrayal, justice, and redemption. Until next time, stay strong and never stop believing in your truth.